If you've been doing everything you're supposed to do, showing up, staying strong, keeping it together, but still feel disconnected from your own life, don't scroll. This video is for you. This is not another motivational talk to play in the background. It's not meant to hype you up for a moment and disappear. What you're about to hear is here to help you slow down, not to fix you instantly, but to help you notice what you've been dealing with silently. If you've been moving through life on autopilot, doing what others expect while feeling oddly distant from yourself, this message will feel familiar. So, before we go any further, do one thing. Put the phone down, stay with this video, and listen, not to be entertained, but to understand what your life is asking you to do right now. Pause here. If this already feels familiar, don't rush past it. This part matters more than you think. And now that you're here, let's slow this down, because what follows isn't noise, it's awareness. Not because something urgent is about to happen, but because something important has already been happening inside you, quietly. There is a space in life that most people never talk about. It's not the moment you collapse. It's not the moment you rise. It's the long season in between, where you keep moving, but you no longer feel present in your own life. You wake up. You go through the motions. You answer messages, finish tasks, meet expectations. From the outside, nothing looks wrong. But on the inside, something feels disconnected, as if the life you're living belongs to a version of you that no longer exists. This is not failure. This is awareness beginning to surface. Because real breakdown doesn't always come with chaos. Sometimes it comes with numbness, with silence, with the strange realization that you've been living on habits, not something you care about. Be honest for a moment. If you've been feeling numb instead of fulfilled, this is exactly where it starts. You're not stuck because you're weak. You're stuck because you've been avoiding an honest talk with yourself. The conversation that asks, is this really how I want to live? Am I becoming who I respect? Or am I just staying busy so I don't have to feel the discomfort of change? Many people wait for a dramatic reason to shift their lives, a crisis, a loss, a breaking point. But growth doesn't always begin with destruction. Sometimes it begins with a feeling that keeps coming back. That discomfort is not your enemy. It's a signal that the old way of moving through life has expired, a signal that your thoughts and actions don't match anymore, a signal that the next chapter will require more honesty than the last. And if you recognize this feeling, the restlessness, the subtle heaviness, the sense that something needs to change, then you're not behind. And once you recognize that quiet restlessness inside you, there's only one place it can lead you: the mirror. Not the kind that reflects your face, but the kind that reflects your patterns. This is where many people turn away, not because the truth is cruel, but because it is clear. Because when things become clear, excuses disappear. It shows you where you've been settling instead of growing, where you've been explaining instead of changing, where you've been staying loyal to comfort, even as it slowly costs you your peace. Facing yourself doesn't mean blaming yourself. It means taking ownership of what no longer works. It means admitting that some of the pain you carry didn't come from one moment, but from repeated choices made while hoping things would magically improve. We often say life is unfair, but sometimes the deeper truth is harder to accept. We stayed too long in situations that asked us to shrink. We ignored the inner warnings. We adjusted when we should have walked away. We kept convincing ourselves that endurance was the same as strength. But endurance without direction can make you lose yourself. Let that sit for a second. This is the part most people avoid facing, and this is where honesty changes everything. Not the kind of honesty you post online, but the kind you sit with in silence. The honesty that asks, what am I tolerating that is quietly draining me? What truth have I been avoiding because it would require action? What version of myself have I outgrown but keep returning to out of fear? This moment is uncomfortable for a reason, because growth begins the moment comfort stops protecting you. You don't need to punish yourself for the past. You don't need to rewrite every decision. You only need to accept what no longer fits, because once you see clearly, you can no longer pretend not to know. And that awareness, that clear, steady awareness, is the real starting point. Not for becoming someone new, but for finally stopping the slow denial of who you already are. We're moving into the part where insight becomes action. Stay with this, and once that awareness settles in, once you see clearly what is no longer aligned, something quietly changes. Waiting no longer feels peaceful. It starts to feel heavy. Because deep down, you know that knowing without acting makes things worse. Many people stay in this space for a long time. They understand what needs to change. They feel it. They can even explain it. But they hesitate to move, hoping clarity will arrive first, hoping certainty will make the decision easier. But clarity rarely comes to those who stand still. It comes to those who are willing to take a step before they feel ready. There is a difference between patience and avoidance. Patience trusts the process. Avoidance delays responsibility. And the line between them is crossed the moment you keep waiting for conditions to be perfect before you begin. Change does not ask for confidence. It asks for participation. You don't need to know how everything will unfold. You don't need a detailed plan or guaranteed results. You only need the courage to act in alignment with what you already know is true. Movement doesn't mean forcing your entire life to shift overnight. It means choosing one action that breaks the cycle of delay. One boundary instead of another excuse. One honest conversation instead of silence. One small habit adjusted instead of another promise postponed. These steps may feel insignificant at first. They rarely come with applause, but they create momentum, and momentum changes identity. Because every time you act instead of waiting, you send a message to yourself. I am no longer standing still in my own life. If you're still listening, it means a part of you is already choosing differently. This is where belief becomes real, not in words, not in intention, but in motion. Faith is not proven by how deeply you hope things will improve. It is proven by what you are willing to do when improvement feels uncomfortable. And the moment you stop waiting to be rescued by circumstances, timing, or motivation, you step into a different role, not as someone hoping life will change, but as someone actively changing their own life. That is where the shift begins. And as you begin to move, slowly, imperfectly, you start to notice something else. The outside may look the same, but the inside does not. Because real change never begins with circumstances. It begins with the voice you live with every day. Your mind has been rehearsing a story for a long time. A story about who you are, what you deserve, what you can handle, and where you belong. And without realizing it, you've been living according to that script. Every decision you delay, every boundary you avoid, every standard you lower, can be traced back to a thought you accepted as truth. Not because it was true, but because it was familiar. The mind does not protect your future. It protects what it knows. That's why even when growth is available, your thoughts may pull you back toward what feels safe instead of what feels right. This is why fixing your life without addressing your thinking never lasts. You can change environments, routines, even relationships, but if the way you talk to yourself stays the same, you will eventually recreate the same reality in a different form.